Welcome back, folks. So these are some of my figures. This is kind of my hold the line series that I've created. Different techniques. There's no limit to the amount of materials. There's no limit to the amount of detail that you can put on these figures. Figures and also dioramas. As you can see, I just when I see a figure, sometimes it inspires me to create an RC vehicle. Sometimes I see a vehicle and it inspires me to create a figure for it. And sometimes I see a figure and it inspires me to create a diorama, like you see here. These figures are all on different levels of customization. Some of them are just originals. Rocondo, he's a cool figure. Of course, he's original. His 25th anniversary, there's nothing done with his figure. But I did work a diorama of an existing, of course, I think the Outpost Defender, you can recognize it. And in this figure here, a knight, a female knight, the figure isn't modified in any which way, but it deserved this diorama. You see the 25th anniversary of Budo. There's nothing about him that has been changed other than the painting, highlighting some of those awesome details, and a little bit changes on the sheath for the swords. Beyond that, he's original. There's nothing been done to his to customize the figure itself other than the paint job and the sword sheath. And we'll talk about the dioramas and different techniques that I've used. This figure here, I actually bought it from eBay. It was a kit bash, and he put it together well. I like the figure as a sniper, probably Force Recon, doing some urban stuff. You know, I had a couple pieces and I just threw them together, and it came out good. I like that one. This is probably my highest modified figure here. He's 1/18 scale. You could recognize him. You know, the movie 300. That movie is just inspirational. I know some of it is, you know, fictional, or, you know, they take liberties when they make movies just so they can make them entertaining. But the concept and the whole thing is just pretty badass. He's highly modified. His armor, his shield, his spear. I'll get into the details on that on the figure itself. But he's highly modified, body painted, body sculpted, lifelike hair, and then of course the diorama. The diorama was fairly easy. Actually, that's the easiest diorama that I've built here. So let's get into it. So down here you have, let's start left to right. Down here, this is some of, I'm not sure if you've seen them, but they're little bricks, bricks and mortar. These are the bricks that I've used before on some of my dioramas. And this is the particular size. So these bricks come in different sizes, all the way to like 164. Sometimes the scale is like 164 or 172 scale bricks. I mean, these things are little tiny ones. I actually built a garage diorama using tiny little bricks. And that took forever, but it came out awesome. It was a gift for my my ex father-in-law. So it came out pretty cool. But I mean, 164. I mean, imagine the little bricks. I was using like tweezers to put each brick in place. But if you are interested in making something like that realistically, you can use these bricks, and specifically that particular model to those bricks. That's the closest I can see, or from my perspective, that would equate to a 1/18 scale brick. All right. And it's fun making that. It's kind of tedious. And then for a bonding agent, I actually use Quikrete. It's just cement, a bag of cement that you could get at Lowe's, Home Depot, any kind of hardware store. Quikrete is kind of like a cement that's widely used. It's fairly cheap. You could get a bag Probably about $7 or $8, I think. Don't quote me on that. But it's fairly cheap for the amount of cement that you get. And just be careful. There's a lot of different ones. There's cement with sand. There's cement with aggregate like gravel. That's more towards the concrete situation. So just stick strictly with the cement stuff. I've also made different items from that cement, from that Quickcrete. It dries fairly quickly. It's easy to work with. You just mix it with water. I don't use any aggregate because just the small scale of it, I think it gives it a nice texture, a nice look to it. I mean, this is a Jersey berry. Jersey berries are made out of cement and or concrete, I think. But I don't use any kind of aggregate. I just use straight up cement, and it gives it a realistic look because in actual, it gives it a real, how do you say, similarity to the real thing, because it kind of is the real thing. It's cement. I mean, when you break this apart, it looks pretty, I mean, just like cement. So yeah, I have these Jersey barriers. They're pretty cool. And what I used for the base was also cement. So this is kind of like the urban thing, broken down little cement bricks. And then the little tiny bush, it's a real bush that I found outside in the desert. So I'm pretty proud of this, even though it's kind of simple. It's pretty realistic, as close to realism as I can get. Mind you, these bricks could also be made with foam, and we'll move to foam when we talk about this one. So moving over to Recondo, God, sometimes I get tripped up with words here, if you haven't noticed, but the Outpost Defender. So this, I modeled it straight from the G.I. Joe, the G.I. Joe version of this. So I did want to make it more realistic. I looked at it and I was like, hey, sandbags, wood, and shingles. I mean, that's as simple as you can get to it. It's like I can recreate that. This material, these are actual sandbags. So this material, it's just regular material. You could find it at Walmart. You could find it at Hobby Lobby, Michael's. If you go to those sections, you'll see material that's they use it, of course, for any kind of like sewing or anything of the sort. But these sandbags are fairly easy. They're tedious to make, but they're fairly easy. All I did was make a template of the size sandbag. So I use this template to trace out as many of these as I can on the material that I use, and then I cut it out, and that's the number one tedious thing. And then after that, I use this liquid stitch. This works awesome. I've tried other glues, other fabric glues as well, and this is the stuff. This is the stuff that works the best. So once I have the template and I have it cut out from the material, all I do is fold it over. Actually, I dab this glue on that portion and this portion, and then I fold it over, and then I clamp it with like tiny little clamps all on the side. If you hold it, I mean, it probably takes maybe about 15 to 20 seconds for it to get a good bond to it. And then I just let it dry out. Once it's dried out, then I take tweezers and I go in there and then I pinch the inside and I turn it inside out. And that's how you get basically a bag, okay? And then after that, I fill it up with sand. I live in Yuma, Arizona, and as you can probably imagine, there's plenty of sand, nice fine sand out here that I use to fill these. And it gives it a nice little seam. This one I've tucked it in, but what I do is I pinch the top, fill it up to wherever I want it, and then I tie it up with just string, brown string or whatever string I want to use. These sandbags are pretty versatile. When I'm building this, as you can see, these sandbags have been laid out. Some of these sandbags, when I was building this, I cut it and then I emptied out some of that sand. I have probably about 50 of these, and I've made green ones for other dioramas. But so when you see these laid out, that's the kind of technique that I use. I cut them and then I lay them out and see if it kind of looks and mirrors the old one. That's the sandbags. The wood itself is actual wood, balsa wood. Balsa wood, like again, Michael's or any kind of hobby shop, Hobby Lobby, they have an assortment of balsa wood, and that's fairly easy. I wanted to get even the little gunshots that the Outpost Defender has. I kind of tried to mirror the same ones, just little small details that kind of it complies with my OCD, and I like those little details. The top is I think it's that white material. If you look up modeling materials, there's a couple companies out there that make these materials. Evergreen, I believe, is one of them. You can find it at Amazon, on eBay. They have all sorts of different materials. I wish I kept the bag that this stuff came from, because it is closest to the 1/18 scale. This is also an I-beam. Not an I-beam, I'm sorry, an L shape, just like on the Outpost Defender, and that's the same material of the top. The bottom, just go out to the desert, found some dirt that was closely resembling the color that I wanted, and then the bottom portion, all this stuff sits on this foam, pink foam, Pink Panther foam. If you go to the wood section or the construction section, the cement section of Lowe's or Home Depot, these sheets come in, I want to say about 7 feet by 10 feet. Just ginormous. They're used for insulation on the housing. So they're easily broken down. But I usually buy one of these maybe once a month because I use it so often. For big projects and little projects, this stuff comes in handy. If you look up on YouTube, there's a lot of people that work with foam. Cosplay people work with foam. Dioramas are, this stuff is gold. You can get this type of foam looking like a cement slab, cobble street, a wall made of rocks. You could even get this effect to a greater detail using foam, which saves you a bunch of time and a lot of cost. These little brick bags cost anywhere between $10 and $15 a piece. You get about you get 325, but you can imagine this wall is double the cement, and it takes probably about a bag to create this. So for this foam, for the little amount of foam that you're gonna use, that foam board probably costs about the 7 by 10 foot foam board, probably about, I want to say between $35 and $45. Again, don't quote me on that. And Lowe's I think sells the pink stuff, and then I think Home Depot, I found it comes in blue as well. It's about 1 inch thickness. Yeah, just about 1 inch thickness. But from that you can get a lot of use. I like the bricks themselves because there's a bunch of layering there, but I've seen some folks on YouTube make some seriously realistic stuff with this stuff, and their technique is just amazing. And I always reference them for stuff like this. This is foam board as well. This base is foam, this base is foam, that base is foam. And then that whole wall is made out of one square or rectangle of foam. I'll talk about that in a little bit. So I definitely encourage you. There's so many people out there with awesome techniques, from the wargaming miniatures, the 28 millimeter. Their paint jobs are just amazing. The layering. Look at model builders as well. There's some amazing model builders. The thing with what I found with the people that create these awesome figures and they have these awesome techniques, they usually, not all of them, of course, but they usually stick with one genre. So a model a model maker usually sticks with models. They're great at it. They're amazing at their techniques, but they don't never venture off those particular subject matters. Um, I find that there's just so many people out there with so many great techniques, even cosplay people. The foam that they use and the techniques they use, the heat guns, all that stuff could come in handy. I haven't quite used cosplay yet, but I'm sure their techniques will come in handy. But keep that in mind. Try to broaden your perspective on when we're working with all these custom figures, custom dioramas. I love RCs. That's kind of my passion, as you can see from my YouTube channel. Most of my videos are RCs. I like it, but I also appreciate all this other stuff. So now moving on. Excuse the rant, but now moving on to my Budo diorama here. And I had a YouTube watcher ask me about the bamboo. The bamboo was actually painstakingly created, and it took me a while to figure it out. I knew I wanted to do a whole bamboo scene. I was thinking about putting a torii gate there, but once I got started, I just didn't have enough room for the base. And the bamboo took me a lot of trying to figure out. So I always try to find something that's already done. If I can find an item that's already created, then why even bother to custom make it? The easy route, right? I think it's best. One time I created a dual 50 cal for my Moray RC, and that took me forever. I spent large amount of time, large amount of money, and then after I was done, about 2 months later, I come across the same thing with greater detail, and just it looked even more badass than mine, and it was for like 25-35 bucks, and I was like, oh man. But I mean, hey, I learned a lot of stuff while I was building mine, but now am I going to do that again? Absolutely not. If I can go to a gridiron, they have some amazing custom pieces to kind of like highlight your custom vehicles and figures as well. If you haven't seen their site, I highly encourage you to go and check out their site and their items. Gridiron, awesome customs. Okay, I go on tangents, folks. So going back to the bamboo, I came across on Etsy. I came across this bamboo. It was kind of hard to tell the size and the specific like dimensions of this because they only have a picture and they have no reference points. But I saw the leaves and I was like, oh, that looks pretty good. So I bought, I think it was like 10 bucks for a bunch of these. I don't have the site, but you can see the name there. And I think I paid about $15 for, and I got like 20 of these. As you can see, it's good, but I would say it's more like a 124 scale bamboo. So I did love the design of the little leaves. So what I did was take off the leaves. Every single leaf cluster, I maintained the clusters, but I cut it as close as I could to the actual bamboo portion of here. And then what I did was I came across a kind of like a shade for windows made out of bamboo. And I actually had seen this at Lowe's, but it cost like $40 for one section of it, and I only needed a couple. Luck being what it is, I came across it at Goodwill and I bought it, and I found that it worked perfectly. So I got the thinnest bamboo pieces that I could find, and I had kind of like the stalks of the bamboo. I still needed, as you can see, bamboo is sectioned off. There's these little nodules where of growth, and then within those nodules there's a little branch of the bamboo leaf that kind of sticks out, from what I can tell from my research, right? So I had the straight bamboo, but for this bamboo the nodules were all the way up, so you could have a nice smooth surface, and then you have a little nodule here, and then way too far from each other for it to be kind of like the, a representation in a 1/18 scale. So I came across these are like little tie-ties that you find. I found them at Fry's, and I took extra by accident when I was buying produce, and so I used these to make those nodules. I cut off the excess material from the top, and then I have this little tapering bottom, and with a little nodule that it creates it if I just wrapped it around, and then I glued it. So that created that little effect of nodules. I know they're small details, but to my OCD, it's a godsend. And then I also, what I did to create the leaf, if you can see here how it curves, I trimmed all the excess on both sides, so it left the wire with kind of like the paper material in the middle. And after I got the leaf clusters from these, I put leaf clusters that would kind of step off to the side. So I put sometimes 3 clusters, sometimes 2 clusters, and then I offsetted it. That's how I created the bamboos. I know that's kind of a lot of detail, but it came out pretty good. The bamboo was actually one of my eye-catching. Every time that I look at my little diorama and figure, I kind of, that's the eye-catching portion of it. The swords, I guess I lied to you a little bit. I did modify a little bit of the figure, because these swords, when I was researching the samurai, they always carry them together, and they carry them close to their hip. I did modify. I think I put ribbon on it so it could hold both of these swords. And when I was doing them, I came across the idea of making a sheath for it from the bamboo. And they actually, I found the right size for them. So I made the sheaths out of bamboo, which is, I think, in keeping with the tradition that they do. Sorry, I had to concentrate there. I kind of whispered on you. So that was that whole creation. The paints that I used for this, I used Vallejo. The Vallejo, this brand, I saw it being used on the wargaming miniatures. They do some amazing stuff. This stuff is pretty cool. It's water soluble. The colors blend together amazing. Definitely suggest this acrylic. It's readily found in your hobby shops, eBay, Amazon. This is a go-to paint. I don't want to discount this stuff. This stuff you could find at Hobby Lobbies as well. Walmart sells these. These are $1. They're water soluble as well. I'm not too sure. I'm not too good of a painter for miniatures to tell you one is better than the other. There's good value, but for $1, and when you're looking at big dioramas, like this is a small diorama, but when you're looking at big dioramas, this stuff is gold. This stuff is what I use for the castle wall here. It works well. I mean, the different layering, as you can see, it gives you a good effect of cement or concrete or whatever, or rock that you're going for. So long as there's texture in there, you can layer some of this paint stuff here, and it holds to that foam very well, very well. So big projects, I would say this. Small detail stuff, this. If you can't afford this, because this stuff is about $5, maybe $7 a little tube, but this is fairly well too, and there's a lot of colors in this as well, so keep that in mind. So yeah, the paint job on that down here, the rocks, always looking. I'm always looking. For my RCs, my figures, dioramas, all sorts of different materials. Once you get going with these projects or customizing stuff, I don't know about you, but my mind is always like, oh, look at that angle, look at that material, look at that item. So all these rocks and dirt and stuff like that, I've gotten this dirt from the desert, this from my backyard. And then I'm not sure if you could tell, but there's different textures here. This one's more gravelly and this is more fine. The whole scene is kind of Buddha walking down a bamboo forest and down a path. So this is going to be a little bit more finer because throughout the years, people using the trails, the bigger rocks get moved off to the side. So I had this material. All I did was sift it, and then I got a finer material that has the same kind of color. So I put the coarser material here, and then I put the finer elements of the same dirt on the path. So it gives me a little bit of textural differences there. But it's the same soil, so it doesn't skip a beat. The rocks, rocks have personality. I know that sounds goofy of me to say, but when you look at a rock sometimes, when I look at a rock sometimes, I should say, sometimes those rocks, they speak to you, they have personality. And so that's when I get these rocks, and oddly enough, I can say like, oh, that rock kind of looks like it belongs in the 1/18 scale world. I know it sounds silly for me to say, but some things for me, they kind of make sense. And aesthetically looking, you can look at it and say, yeah, that kind of belongs. I can't really put my finger quite on it. I can't really articulate why. Not just yet. I haven't, gotten to those fine details of description yet, but yeah. As you can see here with my Leonitis, my 300 diorama, this is a piece of rock. I was out in the desert. I go camping all the time, and I was out in the desert, and I saw this piece of rock, and I thought the symmetry, the squareness of it, and then the face of it. It's not sure if you could tell that much detail with this camera or the angle that I have in the lighting, but it has character in it. I picked it up and I took it home, not thinking that I was gonna use it in this diorama. I kept it around for a while, and I finally, when I was working on Leonitis, I was thinking, oh, I think that rock would go well with the situation. So that's where I used it. Okay, so that was a tiny tangent, but moving along with the tutorial here. So this is foam. So this figure has nothing done with it. This is an original figure, 1/18 scale. I forgot what company makes it, but it's really not hard to find. Yeah, I can't remember it. But the background foam, the bottom foam, dirt. That grass is from model makers, so it works okay. I think I still want to get some, maybe a real bush. If you find like little bushes or little growth in your yard, and it looks pretty cool, it's a real simple technique of just grabbing it and diluting Elmer's glue and spraying it. You just turn it upside down, so basically it's a little tree that's dangling down, and you just spray it with Elmer's glue, and it will hold and keep its color for a very long time, and then you could add it to the sceneries. I just started using that technique. I saw it. I believe there was a model maker that used that technique for his dioramas. So it works well, and it preserves it. Excuse me. It preserves it well, and it gives a realism to your diorama. So keep that in mind. So that one's fairly easy. So my Leonitis here, he's got a whole backstory to it. The stuff that I used was pretty simple. His blade here, I used actual a spoon, a plastic. It was actually a plastic knife. It was a plastic knife that I used to kind of whittle this down. X-Acto knife, and then just kind of whittle it down. It's just one piece. and it worked well. You know, when I talk about looking for material, I was actually deployed out to one of my last deployments, Afghanistan, and I took a little kit with me, like a little toolbox, and had a couple figures, and that's where I worked on this little guy in my last deployment. And I had a lot of time on my hands when we had downtime. And I'm pretty proud of this little guy. I never went out there with the idea or the concept of making any particular figure, but he just kind of popped up. All his stuff is pretty made from scratch. His helmet, I actually had a GI Joe helmet that I took apart. I used it as a template, and I took it apart and I filled in the gap in order for me to be able to expand it. And then after that, I had the base that would fit the figure's head. The figure itself is a WWE 1/18 scale wrestling figure. He had like detailed stuff, and he had detailed legs. Like muscular structure is just in keeping with that whole movie, the 300 movie Leonitis. I exchanged his head because right now you can't tell, but he has a screaming feature, so he's actually screaming. And then I had a little material that I brought with me that I used to make his hair, and then his bristles for his headgear. I used paintbrush. I basically cut the bristles off of paintbrush, and then I glued it. This is my like third helmet. The spear itself, I had a 2x4 piece of wood that I found out there, and I whittled it down. I think I took that from the CBs out there, and so I whittled it down. So you can imagine this was a big piece of wood. So I whittled it down, and then the tip and the butt tip of the spear itself is actually epoxy, along with his shin guards and his shield, and a lot of the build on top is a Apex epoxy sculpt. It's a 50-50 thing. I thought it was way cool that when you look at him at a battle stance, he's like fully covered. So his spear is removable, and it's just wood. The aging process for this, no paints. It's just basically just keep on getting my hands dirty and then just rubbing it around, and it kind of gave it that look. The shield, I had an existing Captain America shield, and just took the round part, and then after that I started building on it with an Apex epoxy, and then I started whittling it down. Once I get the thickness, and I start kind of like working away at it. It's kind of I do carving as well. Maybe one of these days I'll showcase one of my carvings, but it's kind of like carving. Once you build it up, then you could start removing it. If you mess up, then you could add more epoxy, and the shield came out pretty good. I used like little Dremel and little X-Acto knives just to get those battle scars on this shield. Back here, I had to make one specifically for his hand, and for him to be able to slip in there and hold it steady. The helmet, that was a big project that took a lot of time. As you can see, he's got his little ponytail, and he's got his little battle cry, and even his little cloak, his cloak clasp. It's even modeled from the actual movie, which is kind of like a little shield version of a clasp. And then just painting. Sandals are a little bit built up from using epoxy from the originals. Pretty cool figure, I think. Kind of proud of this one. I always say my things are usually for sale, but this one, considering where I did it and just the time that I spent, this one's probably not for sale. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of this one. Let me see what else about him. Oh, his little shin guards here. I know they're not shin guards. None of them have a specific name, but these are also made out of just the Apex epoxy. It just takes a long time to be able to like sand it down and then just slowly carve away at it. A lot of time. When you look at this stuff, some of it is quick, like this, like the foam concrete wall. All those small details are actually made with a technique that I saw from YouTube, is getting foil paper and making a rough ball out of foil paper. And once you take a ruler and make little indentations for where all the bricks should be at, you kind of dig into it with like a pencil, a pen, a plastic knife. You take any kind of edge so you can make an indentation, and then you take that ball of foil and then you press on it, and those irregularities of that foil that you created, they get indented into that foam. That's why that foam can take any kind of personality that you can imprint on it, whether it be a brick wall, whether it be a cement wall, whether it be, like here you have big blocks. You can create whatever you can create on that foam. It imprints it and it stays that way. It's not going to bounce back or anything of the sort or disappear. It's just as hard as you press into it. And if you can see this little effect here, this little effect where, basically like a catapult hit it, and made it an indentation. All I did, this was a mess up that I didn't like. And then all I did was, stick, my carving tools and just pop it out on both sides. And it created like a little effect in there. That foam is awesome. So yeah, there's all these techniques and stuff. And here, I had this nice little rock that I found in the desert, and it has a lot of personality on it. With foam, can you create this? Yes. It probably take a lot more time, but if I can use the real thing, I'm always gonna go for the real thing. Kind of like those little bricks over there. They're real little bricks. I can't run away from their actual brick, and it's actual cement. So yeah, I'm all for that. This stuff down here, it has a lot of texture. It has a lot of small detail. This is an actual coaster. So I know, and I can't say enough that, you'll hear this over and over again. I go to Goodwill all the time for looking for materials, looking for GI Joes, looking for RCs, and you can't beat it. It's kind of like a scavenger hunt. Even if I don't find anything, I spent an hour looking for something. That's almost entertainment in itself, the way I see it. But they're coasters. I had a bunch of those coasters. Not a bunch, I'm sorry. I bought like 3 or 4 of them, and I just had them lying around for like extra material. This is another pair of coasters that I found. I mean, I think it was like $1.50 or $2, and I got 4 of these. And look at that texture. I mean, you'll find texture, and you could find like small little pieces for this, like this. They give a lot of texture, a lot of character to small dioramas like these. Plopping a figure there and then painting this in different layers using those techniques that wargaming people lend themselves to, and also like model makers and even hobby people that make 1/18 scale stuff. You could bring out all these small details. The biggest takeaway of this is like kind of expand your realm of customizing. Always look at how this particular technique may fit in this particular genre. Don't close yourself off to just one genre. There's just so much out there, so much things that you can use and things that you can learn. That goes with life. I mean, when you found a good a good technique on how to speak to people, then you take it to the workplace. And if it works in the workplace, then it's probably gonna work with your loved ones, with your friends. Don't close yourself off to the knowledge that's out there. When you learn something and it works well, then chances are it's probably gonna work well with other things. So yeah, that's my little tidbit of philosophy. Have fun out there. If there's any questions or anything else that you wanted me to go into further, let me know. Sometimes I have the time, sometimes it takes me a little while to respond to you, but I'll do my best to get back to you. I'm not too busy where I can't take off the time to make a little video just for yourself. If I could send it to you directly, I'll send it to you. If not, then I'll post it on YouTube, and maybe somebody else could benefit from that conversation as well. So folks, have fun out there. Keep your minds open. If you find new techniques, I definitely encourage you to share them with the YouTube community, so we can all learn and enjoy building these dioramas, figures, and RC vehicles, and whatever else you might come up with. All right, folks, have fun.